loud. Okay. Welcome to the Rebel Mike podcast. We are here with SD. Trigger warning. Turn off your
Bigger one.
computer. Trigger warning. If you are not okay with hearing about sexual abuse, especially towards minors, I need you to go ahead and turn that off now. This is a message of hope. This is his experience. However, I want to give people a moment to go ahead and log off. If this isn't for you, that's fine. His story deserves to be told, and it's the story of a lot of people. So we're not going to shy away from it. We're going to do this thing. But again, this is your warning. It will involve child sexual abuse as some of the content and the effects from that. So goodbye if you're leaving. We'll see you next time. And if not, if you're staying, this is SD. That's a good friend of mine. Hi.
How are we?
We're good.
This is a long
So
time coming, eh?
we have been talking about this for a while, and it just wasn't.
3 years
Yeah.
ish. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to do it. And I think the viewers will also be better for this. And so how did we meet? Do you want to tell it? You want me to tell it?
We can play off each other. Long short story. So I don't know why. One day I decided like I'm gonna start a here's the shameless plug for my group, right? Shameless
Go for
plug.
it.
No, decided to start a childhood trauma group. And I had been following some pretty big pages. I don't remember the name of the page. You remember Pat Tremine? She had like this big childhood trauma page, and I started following her, and like 3 weeks later, she shut down her page. She
Oh,
had like 270,000 followers. And so, just long, short story, she's not part of this. I reached out to her. Hey, plug my page. Shameless. She did. And then I was following your page, and you had at that time, I think 325,000 people. And I was in awe. Like, that's huge, right? That's where I want to go. And I was like, I'm going to talk to her. And so it's like I messaged you, which is really weird because you had like, I think at the time you told me you had like 30,000 members to approve and messages this long. And for some reason, my message went through, hey, can I call you? Why you took a call, I don't know.
it's not everybody. So just for the record, that's not a common occurrence with me. But
No.
it was just it resonated, and I said okay. So we jump on this call, and he's like, "Hey, I want to get this group going for childhood trauma, and it's not available on Facebook like this. I've done my research." And he said, "Can you show me how you got there?" And I said, "Well, I can try." Because it was organic, my growth. I actually, for a whole year, had like 100 or less people. At some points, I had 6 people following my page. It was really just a meme group for me not to lose any more memes when I break phones. I'm
Mhm.
always losing memes. So I was just stashing memes. And then all of a sudden, I woke up one morning, it was like at 50,000 people. And oh my gosh, it's at 591,000. It like, levels off. But I want you to say the full name of your Facebook. It's a Facebook group. You can join him on his childhood trauma page. It is specifically called,
Shameless plug.
uh-oh, Childhood Trauma Disorders, Understanding, Coping, and Healing. It's at 108,000. That's amazing.
108,000. You get part
And
of that credit.
it's a great community. He puts up great information. People talk. You can definitely find it. So tell me about yourself. Go
What's
ahead.
interesting about the phone call when I called you, I still remember the phone call because you reminded me of like one of those flip flop moms. Because I remember you were getting coffee, you were going through drive throughs, the kids were in the back seat, and I swear I pictured you just the kids were just screaming. But what was cool is I don't talk to anybody on the phone. My phone calls are yep, 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 bye. And I think it was like after an hour, it's like we better get off the phone. It was just
Yeah.
that instant. It was cool. It was really cool how all that happened. And
It
then
was.
you started plugging me on your page. And what's funny, I don't know if you remember this. I don't know how many I've gained, but it's almost like you had a speedometer and I had a speedometer. And it was like they moved equal. And it was like you were getting 10 times what you helped me with. So it's like if I gained this amount, you gained 100,000. And therefore, like the first 3 weeks you were helping me, you were gaining like 20,000 a day. And I remember watching your page, you were at like 325,000 forever. And then you plugged me and it was like you were being rewarded. You like almost doubled in like a
Yeah.
month or two. It was stupid fast how that worked.
And just so people know, I'm not monetized. So I don't get paid to run that page. My personal
Mm.
page has 11,000 followers. I don't get paid online. I am blacklisted. I have been deplatformed before. So, you know, what people don't realize is not everybody online is making money. We're doing it literally because we're showing up. We care about what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, you know,
There's a lot of work in that too. People don't understand like trying to come up with content and material to keep it fresh and constantly post.
all
It's
day, every
several
day.
like it's gotten easier because you figure out where to look, but several hours a day. Free.
I go through bursts right now. I'm in kind of a hands off, whatever
Yeah.
happens, happens. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not really approving anybody's posts, which makes people leave, which is fine.
Hmm.
And I'm not really posting a ton, just a meme here and there, but um, you know, it's an ebb and flow online. And I tend to be quite controversial. And you know, the Rebel Mike podcast is part of that branding, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't want to, I want to talk about the things that matter. I don't want to ignore the things that are hush hush. We don't talk about that. And that's happened so long, especially around sexual abuse, okay? And just abuse in general. Keep it in the family. It's nobody's business. It's only our business. So, you know, and the secret side of this, SD, is there's so many men that have been abused. Men abuse, like the statistics are actually swing a little bit more on the male side. I think it was like 51 to 53% last time I checked.
It's depends where you look. So I remember, I think it's a stupid amount. Like 6 out of 10 females,
Hmm.
some sort of a sexual something, but it was 4 out of 10 males, and that is a pretty high number. But the difference that I could find is most of the males that were abused were between birth and about 13 years old when they started getting testosterone. And I think it's because they start getting dangerous. They can start defending. And it seemed like almost like the females took over at that point. And I think it's almost like the time females start getting breasts, there's like almost this transition of more females seem to get molested past that and more males below that. There's almost like a line in there somewhere.
I'm going to say something very controversial, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize. I have never spoken to one female that has not been touched or worse inappropriately.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little further. I think the problem with our male statistics is it's underreported to the hilt, okay? Because men are told what? Don't cry, don't be a sissy, you know, you
Yeah.
better shut up. If you tell, we'll kill you. Like it's not okay out here. And the type of vigilance, I mean, teachers, doctors, dentists,
Mm-hmm.
administration, preachers, clergy.
I was going to say, don't say the P word. No, don't say the preacher word.
Oh, I'm saying it.
I know you are.
And they can come for me. I have plenty of words for it. You know what I mean? We are in a position to protect our children, and there are people taking advantage of it. And I want to preserve this podcast and not get censored. But the
Yeah.
words I have for you and the wood chippers people have for you, they're there.
What
Okay.
you're saying is online. You can go research article after article after article. It's not Amy has this hidden secret. It's all
No,
there.
I'm saying though, I think the statistics are actually astronomically worse across the board
I believe so.
because people are so ashamed, and there's a lot of rapes that go unreported. There's a lot of just really horrible stuff. And the reason what you're about to share is so big, guys. I'm just going to spoiler alert. I'm not going to do it. These people are like, we hate this. I'm not. I'm actually not going to give you a spoiler alert. So tell me a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to share, what you do, what you don't do. Um,
Hmm.
that's a hard one.
It really is. Where do you start? Where do you sell yourself? What do you want people to know? What do you people? So, long short story. Raised in a small Wyoming, itty bitty Wyoming, 500,000 people in the whole state. Very small town. Um, Graduated in a high school with 28 people. Kind of cool. There was four in my graduating class, me, Craig, Mandy, and Ben. They were all cousins. So I
So
was,
there was no dating.
no, if I wanted to date, like I was the only one that, could admit to date, could admit. You never know. Um, we'll go over worse things have happened. So left there, went straight in the military, which was really, really awesome. There was about five of us guys that hung out together. The good part of leaving Wyoming is there was other things to do besides do drugs, work in the oil field, and drink. So two out of the five guys are dead because of they stayed. So getting out was a big deal. Getting in the military, getting around strong men, that was almost like a family. Um, Had some kids, raised my kids, and went in the oil field. Been in the oil field 23 years now, I believe.
Wow. That's a
So
long time.
long, long career, and now I'm in school pretty much full time to be a therapist, which we'll get into what other stuff I'm doing later, but that's all going to be part of the
And
tying
real
together.
quick, did you ever make that post public that I asked you to make public? He said, and I'm always going to get myself in trouble. He said there is no oil and gas shortage. As someone that works in the oil field, like that is a
I'll
projection to
read it
make the
to you.
prices go up.
What oil and gas workers know, and this is true, we're actually exporting to other countries oil and gas. If we were short, we wouldn't be exporting. We're exporting to other countries. There's no excuse for these fuel prices going up. Us workers are going, what are you doing? So we're getting gouged somewhere
I just
because
want people to
that's
know
what
this is
happens. Like this little war starts, and so everybody starts
I just want
having an
people to know
excuse.
you heard it at the Rebel mic. I don't care what everybody else is telling
Mhm.
you. The truth is not available unless you know people to ask the right questions. So we are
However,
still exporting.
however, a slight problem, and we won't get into it because it's not what this is about. There was a big explosion in a refinery yesterday in Port Arthur, Florida. No, Port Arthur, Texas, which is all over the news. And that refinery was kicking out almost 450,000 barrels a day. So that's probably going to hurt us. But
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. Moving on.
Big deal. Yeah, that was a side note just
Side
because.
note, you brought
So,
it.
okay, let's get into it.
Isms.
Yeah. These are the
Like,
isms.
yeah, like two rabbits trying to get like we're good.
So fun though.
Dude, I got like
Okay.
ADH double D. It's so bad.
HGA double D's.
It's a joke about ADHD, but anyway.
I know. It's also like, yeah, we'll just let that one go.
Okay, we'll let it go.
So, what happened? Something happened to you when you were a child, and we're going to talk about it.
So, long short story. We moved out. So, dad got custody of me about when I was 4. No, 5. Dad got custody of me. And we ended up, where'd you go?
I I need to grab my charger.
Gone.
Okay. Yay.
You're going to have to ask questions and coach me, cool?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
we
dad got
moved.
custody.
Yeah. And we moved out to it was, I think it was a ranch hand. It was out on a farm. It was on a specific farm, big farm. And he had an old farmhouse that used to be the family farmhouse. They built a new house, and that's where the farm family lived. And that's where we moved. And I'm really bad at starting stories. So we moved out there, and I used to go outside and play. I was 8 years old, 7 or 8. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1980, 45. So I was 8 and 9 when this happened. And they had a 14-year-old son that liked to play doctor or house. That's what he said in court. He used to like to play horse. So how graphic do you want to go into this? Like, do you
Want to
just
be
want to say
I
like,
want to be careful with the graphic because again, I don't want
yeah,
to get censored. I want people to be able to understand, but I think penetration, like stuff like that, is on
well,
the
so
table.
it's really interesting. We're going to start off a few things. So when we started down this journey, and we're going to get into that like later, um, it was very controversial when this got put up because of the age. People associate um, children as children. I noticed they didn't associate the different ages of children. They were just like kids are going to be kids. I was 8, 7 and 8, or 8 and 9, and they were 14, 15. And when this all started, just so people understand the gravity of this, if you don't understand the difference between an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old, I want you to stand a third grader up next to a freshman in high school. If you don't understand the physical prowess, I want you to put that 8-year-old, that third grader, put him in some football gear and have him play football against that freshman in high school, right? It's a huge, like
Yeah.
22 and 30 or 30 and 38, not a 30, not a big deal. Like, because different people grow and you could be emotionally the same, physically the same. It's, you know, but, and mental prowess, like people didn't understand the mental prowess. It's like, take that freshman, take his homework and give it to the third grader. And then come back and say, well, kids are just kids. It's not. There's such a huge growth and knowledge and brain development. That's one of the big things is you're in that chemical development, right? And we'll get into that later. So I just want people to understand the gravity because it gets talked about as, oh, a couple kids playing around it. That's not what this
No,
is,
no.
and the psychologists have come in and made laws as we're getting into it that the law is that if somebody's 14-year-old or older and there's a 4-year gap, it's the exact same as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old touching a 16-year-old. It's a felony just like that. The only difference is the punishment because they want to rehab the younger children where the older people go to prison, right? Jail.
Hmm.
So anyway, they got me. We were out on the farm. I didn't have any friends. The closest house was miles and miles away, whatever. So now that we understand the mental, this kid would come down. I didn't have anybody around. He'd want to play. He'd want to play. Okay, cool. I got somebody to play with, right? I'm all alone. Got somebody to play with. So I don't remember the play because that's not what's burned in your head, but you'd play house and he was this and he was that, whatever, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're bent over a woodpile, right? And you don't know how you got there or how you got talked into it. You just know you're playing and you've never experienced this. You don't know what. So you don't really understand at 8 years old. You don't have testosterone in your body. You don't have the ability to get an erection. You don't have the ability to get turned on. You don't understand. So you literally, whereas like the 14-year-old understands sex, they understand testosterone, they understand getting erections. At 8 years old, you're just, oh, this is part of the game. The game hurts. It kind of sucks, but I'm getting attention. It's part of the game. We're playing the game. Um, and yeah, all of a sudden pants are down, your pants are down. And this was never like when this when this happens, you're not like we're gonna go to the Ramada and there's gonna be candy and you're gonna have this fluffy bed. This always happens in a weird it's just like wherever you're at, right? Or you get taken somewhere. So we were in, I remember getting bent over a wood pile. Like I remember, like we'll go over it later, like splinters digging into your cheek. But you're happy the splinters are digging into your cheek because the other end really hurts bad. You know what I mean? So this was, and it's documented, and we'll go over that later. We didn't remember the exact count, but 15 plus times over the period of about a year and a half. Like this is, why don't you stop it? Why don't you just say something? I don't know. For the same reason that kids out playing football don't go and tell their parents, it's you don't know.
Can
You're
I
just,
can I
you're
address
playing a
that real
game.
quick?
Yeah.
So when I was around 4 or 5,
Mm-hmm.
I had gone up over a hill and my dad was at the park with me and this guy on a bike, I don't know who he was. He was significantly older though, like either 18 or older. He touched me over my clothes. Okay, not the same thing. I get that. But I didn't have words. I knew it was wrong because I instantly felt dirty.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking as a child, like, luckily my dad, my knight in shining armor, comes up over this hill. This guy just takes off, and my dad's like, "Why'd that guy take off like that on his bike?" And I was just like, And I did know, but I didn't know how to say anything. And plus, something in my head was like, "You're gonna get in trouble." And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do anything. And
Yeah.
so I didn't say anything because something inside of me convinced me you're going to be in trouble for this thing that just happened. I don't even have words for it because that was just my potty place. Like I'm 4 or 5 years old. Nobody's
Yeah.
had any talks with me. And just being plain, nobody really had talks with kids that were 8 or 9 either, because like you said, our bodies weren't developed yet. They waited till like sixth
We have no
grade.
idea.
Yeah, that's third grade. They wait till sixth grade to have a little, like, you're gonna start your period, ladies, boys,
Yeah.
things are gonna start happening in your body. So like you're still 3 years from hearing anything about what's happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. Like, I didn't get the dirty feeling. Like, I knew it was painful. I knew it wasn't fun, but chores weren't fun either. You just, um, I think there was a little fear too, because bullying starts, young kids bully each other. So when you get somebody that big, they can hurt you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really weird. You just, like, for me, I didn't really know. Didn't really know.
And I believe that, and I just want parents to hear, like, it is so important to talk to your children. And it's hard because you don't want to like clue them into something that they don't
Yeah,
need to know about. But there are literally predators saying, this is play. This is fun for
it
you. And
is.
that's how they groom children.
That's exactly.
And so like in the era of Epstein Island, it is very important for us to stand up and educate our children in a way where they know, if any, like, this is kind of how I have left it in the past. This is your potty place, like this is your privates. You can be more explicit if you want. I never really did because I didn't want kids running around saying the medical
Right.
name. But if if anybody touches this place, I don't care what they tell you, that's your place only. You can let me know. I'll keep you safe. And if they threaten to kill me too, like, it's okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm the adult.
Mhm.
You tell me anyhow. So, just open those conversations for kids to feel like they can come to you, because this stuff happens and you're hearing it firsthand. This is play. This is this is just part of the game. And he didn't know. That's innocence, by the way.
Yeah. And what I learned later, eh, there's part of me, it's like, I remember having a conversation with dad approaching me. And I asked about this, and you don't remember. And I remember, even at that young, maybe I was a little bit older. Maybe we were off the farm already. He's like, "Oh, you and Tyler good friends, right?" I can say his name, it's in the paper, whatever. Um, and I remember going, why would you single him out to ask me, you guys are good friends, huh? And even at a very young age, I think I was only 9 or 10, and I still remember this going, how did you not know? Why did you approach me with that specific name? Even at 9 or 10, I figured that out. So when we're talking about, you could almost go into, oh, the uncle. Well, we can't piss off the uncle. We can't cause tension in the family. Oh, this was my landlord's son. We can't get kicked out of our house. We can't. You're just, you're going to just have to keep this quiet. Does that make sense?
I've seen
But,
it be
but
the
also,
grandpa. I've
but
seen it
also,
be the grandpa, and they were like, he's too old to deal with anymore. And it's like,
right? But at this age, for me, you almost, a little older, around 10 or 11, you kind of start figuring things out. and understand this was in the 80s, mid 80s. This was a long time ago. I'm not talking about yesterday. There was a lot of development coming on and education that we didn't have at first. So, between the like mid 80s and 90s, all of a sudden you had shows like Roseanne that popped up and you started seeing sexual stuff with the daughters. And so you start understanding. But before that, you had like two channels on a static TV with a dial. So you
Yeah.
didn't have the education you do today. So if you have a parent saying, don't talk about it or it's hidden back then, that's no big deal. You're not seeing rape cases in the news. You're not reading it in the paper. You're not seeing movies that are very graphic now that teach you that, it's probably not right. It's
Yeah.
not worth talking about. Very different day and age, very different mentality. And I don't know today if people would be more willing to talk about it and step up. But back then, it was, especially in Wyoming, conservative Wyoming. Even now, 73% of Wyoming vote for Trump. Conservative, the most conservative state in the country. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to address rape. We're not going to address homosexuality. We're not going to address, we're, that state is very, very different, especially in the 80s. We're not going to talk about that stuff. You're going to shut up. You're not going to cry. You're going to deal with it. You're going to go to school. Very different mentality. So we're not talking about
So I have a
today.
question. Do you think that silence, that culture of silence, creates worse monsters because they know it's going to be hidden, it's going to be covered up for them?
That would be when we talk about, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
And when we talk about some stuff later, which is going to be really cool when we go over some things, the creatures that came out of the woodwork, they know each other. Because what I learned is grandpa did it to father, father did it to son, son did it too. And these families are interconnected, and it's almost like a, when some of this stuff came out, there was a lot of people going, what the hell is going on in that town? And then other people stepped up that were in law enforcement and went, it's all over the state. Very, but like I said, different day and age. I don't know what it's like now. I have some stories we can go over, but very different day and age.
Okay.
And you were shamed, like you would be shamed. You would be shamed for being different. It would be your fault, you
It's
know,
so gross. And so,
especially if they were a landlord's son or a star football player or owned a business, you
and
know.
this is what makes it possible for these monsters, though, is people are afraid of rank and title and socioeconomic status to the point where if you're high up on the totem pole, you can get away with a lot more than the crackhead at 7-Eleven,
We're
right?
seeing it.
Like,
We're seeing it. We're seeing it in the
yeah,
news today. You
we
post
are.
about it. You post
Yeah.
like, you know,
And the fact that there's not more outrage, like I can't make it make sense in my brain. Like it doesn't make sense. So this
it,
is really important for us to go over. The abuse doesn't stop. And what I mean by that is there were some long-term effects you've dealt with because of what happened to you when you were a child. Can you talk about those things? Like, was there addiction, self-esteem, identity issues? Like, what did you deal with as a result of what happened to you as a
yeah,
child?
we can go through it. Since we're talking about sex, let's talk about sex. You grow up. So from what I understand, I'll just talk about me, but there's many different ways you could grow up sexually, hypersexually, asexually, demisexually, right? Because in a normal family, you get taught. I'm going to be very real about myself. For me, the intimacy of sex, like I am monogamous. I'm not polyamorous. I've never been like I've always been faithful. But at the same time, sex is like, hey, you want to go throw the ball? Yeah, it's fun. It feels good, but there's no, like in a normal family, they're like, it's emotional and it's special and it's amazing and and the only part that I actually believed was it's wrong to cheat, so it is between two people, but the rest of it, you might as well be playing cards. It's just something you do that's fun, right? um So one of the effects of that is when you, for 2 years during brain development, this wasn't a one and done. This wasn't a one and done when you had a healthy brain that where you could work through it with a therapist. This was when your chemicals are developing your brain, and for 2 years you're getting, we know it was 15 times. That's what was signed. Plus, you lose that intimacy. It's not special. You don't have that feeling your first time or when you get married or when you're with somebody special. It's never special. It's just, hey, buddy, that's one of the effects. And that sucks because you do see, you don't see other people having sex and see the emotion, but you see the relationship they have. You see the connection and that strong emotional, amazing bond. And you want to feel that. You know you're supposed to feel it. You see it in movies. You're told about it. They talk about it. It's supposed to be that, but you don't get it. It was left on the woodpile. It was pulled out with the splinters. I mean, that's gone. So that's one that I'll probably never get back. Like some of the other stuff we were able to work through that we'll talk. That's probably one is like, you want to talk about long lasting. That's till death. That'll never come back. That's part of the brain damage. It's not, it changes your brain, right? We can talk about, so I have a lot of tattoos. When you're done with the abuse, when they're done abusing you, you take over abusing yourself.
Mm.
You don't know anymore. There's two things going on. You don't know how to deal with. You're not supposed to have these emotions. That's not normal development. So the body functionally doesn't know what to do. You're confused. You didn't get here's the right dopamine and here's the right cortisol and you got. So your body doesn't understand naturally how to even function anymore. So you're trying to deal with that. And it's really weird. You have this pain, this physical pain here, but there's no pain. But it hurts, but there's nothing to like. It's a weird mix. So to deal with that, you don't know how to function anymore without pain. You can't get rid of it out here, so you try to get rid of it out here. So you remember the smiley faces that kids used to do, heat up a lighter, burn the lighter? I don't know if you know about that. A lot of Gen X do that. The cool kids used to do that. I had burn marks. I used to have to wear long sleeve. I had like oozing burn. I used to like cigarettes. I could, it was a party trick. I used to be able, just to show how tough I was, hold a cigarette until it went out to myself. It just, that need to feel that pain in a way released the inside and brought it to the outside. And it is addicting. It feels good in a weird way. I
Mm-hmm.
can't explain it. You're not crazy, you're not psycho, but you need that pain to feel good. It releases it. I still have I don't know if you can see them when it gets tan. You can still see the cigarette burns individually on the forearm. Um,
And
used to,
just so people are aware, this would be the equivalent of people that cut themselves or
did,
do it is a manifestation that a lot of people go through, and it usually manifests the worst in teen years, right?
yeah,
That self kind of
very much
abuse.
so.
And we find the socially acceptable ways through tattoos or other workouts, excessive workouts, eating disorders. So there are other manifestations. Keep going.
We went through the cutting.
Okay.
Dad had the big razors. I used to break the razors apart, so they had little razor blades. I didn't have enough room. Like you would run out of room to cut,
Yeah.
but you couldn't stop. Like as soon as it would scar up, you'd cut it again. You just like rotated, you
Did
know.
you find that the cutting allowed the emotions that you couldn't verbalize or couldn't deal with. It was like it when you cut, did you feel like a release of some sort?
Yeah, but I can't explain why. I don't know
Yeah,
the
I
science
can.
behind it. I don't know the psychology behind it. I've tried to study. I don't know why. And
I
it's very
honestly feel
difficult to
like I
explain.
wouldn't trust any psychology behind it because, like, if you haven't done it, you wouldn't understand kind of experience.
No, you as sadistic as it is, you associate that pain. It's very pleasurable.
Hmm.
That sounds crazy, right? It is crazy. Normal people don't operate that, but you don't feel crazy.
And
It's
and I
very
wonder, and I don't think this has ever been researched, but I wonder if there's for people that deal with neurodivergence of any sort, ADHD, autism, there's OCD, whatever. I wonder if there's a correlation between, I forget what the specific word for it is, but like cutting what people call harming the self. It doesn't feel like harm. It doesn't feel like self-harm when you're doing it. It's actually soothing.
it doesn't. You don't even know.
Well, it's
You don't even
soothing
know other
because
people are looking at you going self-harm. You have no idea.
no, because you're just dealing with, and I hate to admit this, but when I was a teenager, I had an issue with it, but I learned to hide it because like,
Mhm.
there are the people that wanted the attention for it, so they put it where it was visible. Mine was never visible because I needed it to process emotions. I was bullied like brutally. And it's funny because people have come back and apologized for that time and I asked them like what did I do? Like what did I do to deserve that? And they were like you were just so tall. You were so much taller than the
Yeah.
rest of us. And I'm like you you literally drew blood through yard darts through my leg because I was too tall for you.
Right.
And then some of the people were like, "Well, you were just so much smarter. We had to tear you down." And it was like, "So wait, I got bullied because I was tall and smart." Like there's no rhyme or reason for people's cruelty. It's
No.
and so me being neurodivergent but not knowing it till I'm an adult, I had my ways of coping, but it helped me not harm myself. So when I heard it called self-harm, I was like, yeah, but it keeps me from hating myself. It brings what's inside to the outside and it's a lived experience. And like, as soon as I would bleed, it was like it was gone.
Right.
But then you couldn't talk about it because, like you said, oh, well, there's something wrong with you. You're psychotic. And it's like, no, no, no. It doesn't need to make sense to everyone else, but like coping is coping. And some people do it through alcohol or drugs or self-harm or whatever, but we adjust. So like I have tattoos. I found it to be a very um it didn't hurt. I enjoyed it. I could sit
Yeah.
for 8 hours, 10 hours at a time. You know what I mean? That's why I have beautiful arm pieces because I could
And
still.
the coping, I'm going to bring up time frame again.
Okay.
Parents were not held responsible in the 80s and even into the 90s.
Mm-mm.
If a kid was cutting or burning himself, that kid had mental issues. The kid
Mm-hmm.
was fucked up.
Yeah.
If his grades were going downhill because things were off, the kid was a bad student.
Lazy.
Nobody,
Yeah.
it was always back then on the kids. I don't know how it is now, but back then the parents were never at fault. They'd bring them in for PTO, parent teacher conference. Your kid is just messing up, and you there was no help. There was no like children and families. There was no counselors pulling you in, going, "What's going on with you? Why do you have slices all the way up?" You know, it was always the kid's fault. You're just crazy. You're nuts. That was
And they'd write you
very
off.
different. But why did you have to cope so much? Because it was always you weren't getting any help. You not only on top were you getting raped, which is always brutal. You had to work through this yourself. Why are Gen X problem solvers?
Mm,
I'm not the only one.
uh-uh.
You had to go through the hardest of hard with no therapy, no counseling, no help. Just sit in your bedroom and cut. You don't know. It's very equivalent to a baby has a problem, they can't fix it, so they cry.
Yeah.
You have a problem, you can't fix it, so you cope. Cry, cut, cope.
Yeah. And just so our audience knows, I am picking my fingers bloody. I know this is a little triggering, you know what I mean? I'm trying to bite my lips. I can't seem to get a hold of anything. So we're being for real right now.
That's very
So
real. And then
I
I
want you
mean,
to tell though, did you deal with any addiction because of this?
um, besides the pain, the addiction, it's interesting. I've been very blessed. I actually have never done an illegal drug. I've never smoked a joint, never died ecstasy. I've never sniffed cocaine. I was able to stay away from that, but alcohol, alcohol was a big deal. I drank alcohol from the age of, actually didn't drink until I was 16 or 17. And then whatever, went in, and then it was all down from hill. So I drank very, very heavy um, until July 1st, 2024. I haven't had a drink since.
That's amazing.
But yes, and I didn't really understand the effects of alcohol. So not only is addiction, but you don't realize that you're self-sabotaging your relationship with kids, job promotions, um, opportunities, um, self-sabotaging yourself because you don't know how to. Well, two things: you feel like something's off, but you don't know how to fix it. But the other thing is, at that point, you still, in a way, you don't really understand you're different. You think everybody went through what you went through. So it's like it's this weird balance. And I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. Any self-esteem or identity challenges?
I still have that. Like I would look you straight in the face and say I'm ugly. That's not seeking pity. I would I work at a high level now. I work myself up and I still think I'm stupid. I have a 4.0 in school right now. I can show you. I still think I'm stupid. I don't think like the value you had was taken away at 8 years old on the woodpile. You never get that back. Maybe some people do. I've been in therapies now for 8 years. You learn how to, you learn, it's almost like being trained like a dog. It is brain damage. It's not going to change. The way you think is the way you think. Therapy gives you the tools, in my opinion, to learn how to act in situations. Doesn't change how you feel. You just learn how to mask really well. So the
Mhm.
identity that you lost, I think you just always lose it. Unless you can find a partner that just strokes you up all day, every day, like keeps that cell phone charged. But that grinds people down. Nobody can do that. So yeah, it gets taken away from you. But what's weird is a man, even talking to you now after going through therapy, you feel like, oh my God, I'm such a sissy. I'm giving her a sob story. But if you're being honest, yeah, you're a loser. You suck. You're not.
No.
I know logically, and that's where there's two brains.
Yeah,
Because logically, but you feel it. You get trained to know it's not true, but knowing and feeling are two different things.
that's very true.
So logically through training, they hired you. You deserve to be here. They hired you because you're the best they could find. That's what employers do. Not because you're the best there is, but you're the best they can find. That's what you know. But every time you teach, your neck starts getting warm. You start feeling stupid. And then your brain starts doing like three things, right? Hear me out. Where everybody just has to say, sit and listen. You have, you're teaching. And then you have part of your brain going, you are so stupid. Everybody's laughing. And then you have the back of your brain going, don't listen to that voice. You belong here. And you're doing like three things. I think that's why we're exhausted all the time. Where
That is
everybody else
exhausting.
just has to do one thing all day, you are doing three brain works all day long. Does that make sense?
100%. And can we talk about like, do you deal with disassociation with things? Like, do you snap in and out of reality at will sometimes. I mean, maybe not.
I haven't. I understand dissociative disorder very well. I've studied it.
Well,
I
I'm
don't.
not talking about the disorder.
Right. I don't
That's
know.
something different.
I haven't figured out if it's stepping out or masking.
That's a good point.
It's almost, if I would, I'll let you just, it's, you become an actor, and it's almost like when I talk about my rape, I talk about it not like I there, but like I'm sitting up in the corner watching it happen.
I would
Is that
consider that
disassociation?
disassociation. Like you're not
Yeah,
associating with the act, you're kind of observing it.
you're watching TV.
Yeah.
You're watching it from, and
Well,
that's
and
what I do. I
I've been
watch it from the air down. A lot of stuff.
I've been through some things where like they don't exist in my head anymore. I've had to like separate them from myself. But if they come up, I might get stuck in them for a day, like trying to work through it. How could I have changed that? How could that not have happened? What did I do? Like, so when I talk about dissociation, it's kind of just like, oh, it happened to me, but like, I don't, it wasn't me.
Yes,
It feels like something
yes.
else that happened to somebody else.
Because now you can cope,
That's the only way.
right? Yeah. So
So
I guess,
and
yeah. Based off that, yeah.
I hate the mental health world because they're like, oh, but that's not healthy. It's like you didn't have this thing happen to you that was so catastrophic. Most people just don't get back up. Like, and there's things I don't talk about and I can't talk about. I can't do it. Like, even if I have with a therapist and I said, this is the only time I'm ever going to talk about this. We're going to deal with it today and I'm done. I'm not going to deal with this ever again because it was so catastrophic that like my options were give up right now because
Hmm.
this never goes away or this didn't, my brain can cut it out and it didn't happen. And I know it happened. I know it was real, but like I can't have that be part of my story. So I just leave it in the past. Does that make sense? That's what I call disassociation. And, somebody's going to comment and be like, that's not what it is clinically or on paper. Whatever.
Um, I like what you're saying, and it makes it like for me easier. It's like the world doesn't stop for you to deal with this.
No,
You
I
have
still had to go to work the next
whether
morning.
you have a job, kids, dinner to make, houses to clean. You have these full responsibility. You literally have to break it off and throw it out so you can just get today done.
Yeah.
I can't do that in this
So the
because if I do
catastrophic,
that, I'm going to be in bed. You know what I mean?
yeah,
We're not going to get all this done.
no. And the catastrophic event that happened, I had to go to work at 5 in the morning and I got there late because like I said, something really awful happened. And a couple hours into my shift, my boss goes, don't ever come to work on drugs again. Now, mind you, I've never done drugs like to this day.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at her and I was like, is that what she thinks is happening right now? Because I was so checked out. But it was me processing this horrible thing that just happened. But if I don't get to work, I'm going to lose my job. So, like, I can't lose my job.
It makes you very hard.
It does.
It when we talk about that, like no emotion for sex, there's a lot of not emotion for a lot of things. Because similar to you, there was one I can remember maybe twice getting raped in the morning, walking out, going straight on the school bus and going to school. We don't have time to deal.
Mm-mm.
I got to go to school. It is what. There you go. Flip the light switch.
Oh my God. And as a child, like, I can't even
We're
imagine a
done.
child.
But
So
it
here's where
becomes
the
so prevalent. It
story,
was normal. It was like, we're just getting on the bus going to school. Like you don't even think about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like you I lift weights. You lift up a weight bar enough, you get calluses. You don't even feel it anymore. It got so prevalent that it was just another day. We're gonna go to school. Yeah, you know what I mean? It
yeah.
doesn't feel like something bad happened.
And that's the sad thing for the victims that might be watching this. Like at some point somebody told them you chose it because you kept doing it and they're like, "Yeah, but it was just part of life at that point." So you're blaming the victim if you're saying that to them. You're blaming the victim.
That's stupid.
It
You
is.
don't, you
It's
don't,
so
you don't,
bad.
you don't have any. The whole "my body, my choice" doesn't apply to 8-year-olds.
No.
You don't get a choice when you go home, take a bath, put on clothes. Like you don't. There's no body, my choice at 8 years old.
No. You're right. You're absolutely right. So you decided I'm going to do something about this. How old were you when you started to say no? I'm not going to let this die because it hasn't died. Like, right? The effects are still active, but we're told that was so long ago. No, your brain does not know the difference between a memory and what is currently happening. So if a memory keeps playing, your brain is saying this is still a threat. So what was the age you said I'm going to do something about this? I have to do this for what reason? And what was the catalyst?
So, can I make a comment to what you just said? Your brain
Yes.
always thinks it's a threat. I literally, and this is how much it affects you. I just started not locking my bedroom door at night because of this.
Really?
We're talking 41 years later. I just just now I don't lock my bedroom door anymore. When you say to anyway, how old was I? It's just something I thought about when you said that. It's like no, it lasts with you a long time.
Yeah, because your
Stupid,
brain
stupid
really
stuff.
truly doesn't know the difference between a memory and what is happening right now, which is why, neuroscience, I'm trying to look at my bookshelf to see if I can come up with the gentleman that talked about that brilliant, but I can't see the book. It's covered up. But my point is like when you have something traumatic happen and other people are saying, get over it, it was so long ago, it wasn't that big of a deal. Oh, that happened to me when I was your age. Jump off. We all cope differently. We live in a culture that wants to compare trauma and be like, "Oh, mine's worse than yours." Why can't we just say, "Let me hear you and validate you without competing with it."
It is hilarious you say that. The whole get over it. I have spent 40 years, a long it's funny, a long time brainstorming day in and day out how to get over this. So we have come up with every idea. We have read every book. We've talked to all the therapists. And when the smartest guy in the world comes up and says, "Why don't you just get over it?" It's like, oh,
I
oh,
never thought of
well, I never thought of that. Wow. If I'd have just met you 40 years ago, it's funny. It's like, that's the best you got. I've spent 40 years studying this shit. And the best you can tell me is get over it. Like, I've never thought about it before. It's funny. Okay. I got a goofy eye. It goes that way a little bit, right? It just is what it is. It was part of the childhood abuse. Cool. I still have people come up to me and go, "Did you know your eye's a little bit crooked?" I'm like, oh, it was straight this morning. What happened? Oh my God. Never knew. But it's the same thing. Why don't you just get over it? Go write that down. That's going to the psychology book. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just have fun with it. I just mess with them. It's like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Thank you.
it. Do you know who
Here's
you
my hundred
remind me of
dollars
right
an
now?
hour.
You're giving big Robin Williams vibes right now, just
It
so you.
is funny. It's like, I don't know why I didn't pay you $150 an hour. It's, it's funny. It's funny. Because people, they literally think they're helping. I think they
I
have a good
know.
heart. Um, but it's like,
I know they probably do, but it doesn't make you want to pound them in the
it is
face
like
less.
you
It's
you are
like
just
just what? What?
Dumb. You know, my shirt's wet. Why don't you change your shirt? Oh, I don't know. Why don't I? Damn. You know, because here's the thing. We have ADHD. We might have PTSD. We might have the functioning autism. A lot of people associate that with intelligence. We're damaged. We're not dumb. Don't treat us like we're dumb. Don't give us stupid advice like get over it because you're dumbing me down. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We're damaged. We're not dumb.
That's a great line. We're damaged, not dumb.
Damaged, not dumb.
Yeah.
I function as an engineer. I'm going to school to be a doctor. I'm not dumb. I'm damaged. Don't tell me to get over it.
Yeah.
I could write a book right now to school you.
Yeah.
It got real serious.
It did. It
So
did. So you made this decision that you were going to do something about it. And I applaud you. The reason this is so important is that there are victims that are like, it was 20, 30 years ago. There's nothing I can do. And you just set a precedent. And I want you to talk about how you got to the point. We're going to talk about the whole legal battle later, but I want you to talk about the point you pivoted.
the way that I pivoted, I have never, I've never really feared much. I've always been pretty fearless. And I feared this guy. I'm a 215-pound ex powerlifter, big guy. This kid quit growing his freshman year. He's this tall, 150 pounds. Why am I scared of this guy? I read an article, I read a study, and I could find it. The study was they had a female Chihuahua. And what they did is they brought in a Rottweiler puppy. That female Chihuahua raised that Rottweiler puppy, kept it in check, snapped at it, raised that Rottweiler puppy. That Rottweiler obviously grew big, and the Chihuahua was small. The Rottweiler could crush it. And what they learned through it was a psychological study is because of what happened during puppyhood. Um, the Rottweiler always stayed disciplined and scared, and always did what the Chihuahua did. And I took that for my heart, and it's like, I don't want to be that Rottweiler. There is no reason for me to. I'm breaking that chain. I logically, and this isn't. It's just in your head. Logically, I could crush this motherfucker. Why am I scared of him? There is no reason for me to be. So I read that study. It's like, I'm not. I'm going to figure out how not to be. I'm going to break that because just like the Rottweiler, you're trained. That's why you were trained to be submissive. 2 years is a long time. You're trained to be submissive. You're trained to follow his instruction. You're trained. And so it's like, I'm going to break this. And that was the catalyst. It was that article about the Rottweiler and the Chihuahua. It was that study that I'm not doing this. I'm scared of nothing, and I'm not going to be scared of that.
How many years between the abuse and when you read this article and said, I'm going to do something?
8, 18, 28, 38, 48, 40 years.
So 40 years
40
later,
years. Yeah. Maybe 39 years, but yeah.
but we're talking about 4 decades. So
Four
for
decades. Yeah.
anybody that has survived abuse and thinks too much time has passed, he just
Mm-mm.
told you he went after his abuser, childhood abuser, who was also a minor, albeit quite a big age difference there. And like he pointed out, third grade to ninth freshman grade,
Yeah.
possibly sophomore. So he, 39 years later, he was able to get this in
Start
court.
the process of.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that in its own podcast because it's so involved. So I wanted to get us there. Um, I also, this is something you and I have talked about before, and I want them to hear this, okay? Because you and I talked about how people that go through this level of abuse travel certain paths, and a lot of times they become abusers,
Hmm.
and you never did.
No,
So I want people to understand, clear the air. You did not follow in his footsteps and abuse some other child or some other person ever.
no, I never did. And statistically, by the science, you're supposed to. I don't know why. When when a puppy's born, you don't have to teach him to eat. A bird knows when to fly. Like there's some things in life that you just, for some reason, I was born with the understanding you don't touch little people.
Hmm.
It was just that
Yeah.
simple. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't any work. It just, you don't mess with. It just was. I didn't have to learn it. I didn't have to try to get over it. I didn't have to try to make changes. It just, just one of those things you're born with. You
Yeah.
know.
So I applaud you for that, and we've had that discussion in the case where like, you have sought help yourself. Nobody had to force you to get therapy or anything like that. You have been
No, this
actively
was,
working on yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why we're talking about this because I don't want people to actively work on themselves. That's why we're talking today. I want 40 years is a long time to try to figure shit out. It'd be really cool if you could figure it out in 5, 10. You know, imagine me figuring out this out at 22 years old and how far I'd be in my career and relationships in life. That's why I'm talking to you. I don't want people to figure it out by themselves. I'm a very, and I'm not beating the chest, I'm a very special case. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a God thing. I didn't turn to drugs. I didn't molest. I've never been arrested. I'm not a wife beater. I'm not a felon. That's
By
why I'm
all
talking.
measures, you are a very successful man.
Yes.
By
So I
all
don't,
measures.
yeah, I'll repeat it over and over. I'll say it for the next 5 minutes. I don't want people figuring it out yourself. It's miserable. It's miserable. It's anxiety attacks. It's hiding. It's masking. It's becoming somebody else. It's not fun.
Well, and I
Like
just had a
I want people, like
realization.
if this podcast, like even one person says, "Oh, I'm going to get help today." Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
It's like,
We talked about that when you were going to build the childhood trauma page. We talked about how the
yeah,
goal is only to help one because once one person is helped, the goal stays one.
yeah,
And to me, that's such an organic goal because if you say, I want to set out to help 1 million people, it sounds great. But in reality, you've already made it about this huge amount. And there's one person that wishes somebody would notice them and give a crap.
yeah.
But when you make your goal one and that one is there, once you help them, you go on to the next one, you know?
And
And
you can validate this. I told you from the very beginning, you can validate. I don't want all the people. I want the right people.
yes, you did. And the childhood trauma page, guys, it is on Facebook. I just realized this about you when you said you don't want people to figure it out themselves and take 40 years to figure it out. You're trying to be open and honest so that people can heal much faster or at least find a community. As brilliant as you are, you're going to school for therapy to help people because let's just be honest, traditional talk therapy is failing because people are so focused on the problem that they don't ever get to a solution and they're made to rehash it with a different therapist and a different therapist until the problem, like what you think on has a size, right? So
Yeah.
if all day you're thinking about these things that happen to you, they grow and grow and grow, and the solution seems smaller and smaller and smaller. And
Mhm.
so these things are failing. And people are on more and more drugs. Those things are failing. It doesn't actually even seem to help most people. They need higher dosages, higher dosages. Try this medicine, try this medicine. So what I just realized is you've always went straight for the healing process, you know, and you're starting a new organization. I would like you to talk about that real quick.
So it was an interesting thing. Um, it was kind of stupid. I got talked into going doing a pedicure. Cool. Done a
God, I
pedicure.
love pedicures. They're the
They
best.
they feel great. I'm just whatever.
I'm
We're
there for the foot
masculine.
rubs, I'm not gonna lie.
If you're a guy listening to this, you're masculine if you get a pedicure. Just self care is amazing. You know,
Plus, we'll rub
fingernail
your feet
polish is
more if they're
whatever.
not all calloused and stuff. Like, I would prefer to rub a
It's like
pedicured foot over.
it's so stupid. So anyway, they're like, "You want your nails painted?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Do it. It'll be cute." I'm like, "Fine, do it. I don't care." I liked it. It was fun. It was fun, right? It's like your toes look pretty. It's fine. You're still a man.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Whatever. So I was like, I kind of like wearing it. How can I turn this into an excuse to paint a nail? And I saw, I think it was Chris Hemsworth and another celebrity. And I kind of remembered it, so I researched it. And the reason they painted their nail, it was for October. There's a group in Australia called Painted Men, and their whole premise is to paint their nail because 1 in 5 children in the world are being abused at any time. One, two, three, four, five. That's the child. It's a conversation starter, and their philosophy is the way to end men from causing child abuse and women abuse is for stronger men to stand up and stop it.
Absolutely.
So they're using the nail. They've raised $9.28 million to funnel back into their community to help women and children. Okay, cool. I reached out to them because I didn't realize they were just Australian. Hey, blah, 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 blah. We're not in America, sorry. But we like that you like us. Feel free to donate money. I'm like, I'm not sending money to you just little Aussie jerks. Like, no, we got problems here. So I wrote them. I said, I do like the organization. Here's my business proposal. I'll run a pilot over here. We'll see if there's a market. We'll see if we can, it'll be like another chapter. Nothing. No interest. So I thought about it and I'm like, I got petty. I'm like, their name's stupid anyway. Like, I don't even like the name Painted Men. That's stupid. So we
I love
brainstormed,
petty.
we brainstormed and we came up with a better name called Polished and Powerful, which I think is way more masculine than Australia anyway. They don't even have good Olympics, whatever. They don't matter. So I'm a little bitter because they only care about their own people. So whatever. Um, so it's like I'm going to run with this. I was like, you know what? I have a platform. I got a page, 108,000. I got connections. I'm not scared to do it. Let's run a pilot. Let's see what happens. So we've started a page. Um, we're going to run this. Thank you for letting me promote it. Thank you for backing it. Thanks for the fingernail. And so we're going to add to it though. And the reason we're going to add to it is long, short story. I didn't have a mom. She left when I was 4. I can tell you the story where I got found, left for dead. So I didn't have anybody growing up. I had a dog. They're very important to me. And a lot of these children and a lot of these people, they don't have a support system. They have a pet. So it will be a foundation where we pour money back into organizations, figure out how to protect some people. But I want them to have their dog too. That's a little missing piece because not only is the kid getting abused and then he gets ripped away from his family and he gets ripped away from that little support system he has. And coming from that, it's very important that they get to keep that support system. So that's what we're going to do.
Did you want to flash up the Polished and Powerful group?
Hmm? I can flash it up, see if I can find it.
I found it, but my screen.
You can't do it?
No, my screen will glitch out. It just started, by the way, so you're getting in super early.
Getting in super early.
Yes, they're getting in super early.
This is, can you see it? These
Polished and
little
powerful.
these little Facebook blurries, they kind of like blurry, not blurry, blurry, not blurry.
I love it. So it's
So
definitely heading in the right direction for being a brand new page, brand new movement. Um, these are Facebook pages. They are free. They are open to the public. So go join, tell your friends.
join join now while polished and powerful is free because the it is I do want it to turn into a foundation. And there
So
might
the
be a day
ultimate goal and
there
vision for
might be a
this,
subscription.
do you
Yeah.
want to share the goal and vision?
The goal is to obviously raise money to pour back. And the petty part of me is like, I think we should just kick the crap out of what Australia can do. Like,
You said crack first.
yeah, I just want to kick the, like, if they can raise $9 million,
That's a big deal.
I think that realistically, with time and just putting forth the effort and putting it out, I, they, a lot of goals aren't reached because when you see it, it's like, that's too big for you. They were able to, and I'm looking at that 9 million going, we can do that. We can pour that into foundations. We can get people to follow that. People have
And
a
I
soft
want to
spot
just
for
say, I
charity
think it's
stuff.
in great hands with you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I trust you with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's fantastic.
So
We're going to end part one. And then I think you and I are going to stick around and do the part two so we can make it available a little bit quicker for our
yeah,
viewers.
sounds good.
But I appreciate everyone that stayed. And I think we kept it fairly tame.
It was G-rated.
Yeah. Or maybe
If
PG. But we did good.
if
So
rape was
thank
Disney,
you.
we pulled it off.
Yes. Thank you so much. Go join the childhood trauma
So
page and the polished and powerful. And we will see you next time. Bye.